Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. The 2010-11 Barcelona side is widely considered to be one of, if not the greatest club side of all time. During that trophy-laden season, they walked away as La Liga, Super Copa de España, and Champions League winners, and in the Copa del Rey, they were runners-up. They lit up the world stage time and again, but what tactics do they use to achieve these heights? In this video, we take a look. But just before we get into that, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, Surfshark, who have made today's video possible. Surfshark is a VPN service that makes online privacy protection easy. Surfshark encrypts all internet traffic sent to and from your device's IP address remains hidden to make sure that nobody can see what you do online. On top of that, they block ads, trackers, malware, and phishing attempt. And unlike other VPNs, you can use it on as many devices as you like. As football fans, at times we want to see highlights of a particular match online and have traveled abroad and are geo-blocked from the content. Surfshark will allow you to set your location to any country of your choosing, allowing you to watch the content as you should. In addition, it helps keep your digital life secure by ensuring your personal information is kept private from wandering eyes by the VPN. And for Football Made Simple viewers, for a limited time you can get 1 month free and 83% off your subscription through the link in the description below, or visit surfshark.deals/FMS and use the promo code FMS. To examine this great team, it only makes sense to first look at the squad changes they made ahead of the season. Pep had been tweaking the side for a while, and in this season he decided to bring in Jeffron, Athalai, Adriano, and the two key names being Javier Mascherano and David Villa. The squad was also trimmed down, losing some big names including Raf Marquez, Yaya Toure, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and Thierry Henry. The team had been wildly successful in the prior seasons, so the question was whether Pep could maintain the team's hunger, and that they did. So how do they tactically achieve this? Pep used a 4-3-3 in each and every league match, and on average his first choice 11 looked like this. Crucially, Puyol struggled with injury, meaning that Mascherano or Busquets would fill in, but for the sake of this video we'll position Mascherano there. This team was synonymous with possession football, and they dominated it with an average of 67.5%, which was over 10% more than the team in second. And all of this started with Victor Valdés, who was supremely comfortable with the ball at his feet, willing to take risks in his distribution to the defense and risk the occasional error. At this time, a lot of the teams in La Liga would line up with the front two. Some of the braver teams looked to press Barcelona extremely high up the pitch, and Barcelona had ways to counter this. When Valdés had the ball, Piqué and Mascherano would drop deep and extremely wide, which achieved a few things. Valdés effectively became an outfielder, creating a 3 against the 2-man press, and this numerical advantage helped them to keep the ball. In addition, by keeping Busquets in the midfield, they created another 3 versus 2 numerical advantage in the midfield, so when they got the ball to a midfielder, it negated the 2 forwards and gave them an instant advantage. Also, with the midfield dropping slightly deeper, this use of vertical depth meant they made the pitch big, and the spaces between the lines grew, giving Busquets more space here and the forwards more space here. Piqué was brilliant at carrying the ball into midfield as well to beat the press as the ball playing centre back. Another tactic was to push the fullbacks slightly higher and split the centre backs, allowing Busquets to slot in between them. The dynamic here differed now, as they still created the same 3 versus 2, or effectively 4 versus 2 with Valdés, in the deep regions so they could try and manipulate the forwards in this zone. However, if a midfielder came with Busquets, Xavi and Iniesta would have the numerical advantage here, and if they got the ball to either of them, the opposition would be ruthlessly punished. This overload could be exacerbated by Messi dropping into the midfield from his false 9 role and completely overrunning them. When they did come up against a 3-man attack to press them during the build-up, this meant that the fullbacks suddenly became the free options. Villa and Pedro tended to stay high and wide during the build-up, and this pinned the opposition deep, and Barcelona understandably preferred to build up through Alves. Dani Alves enjoyed a phenomenal offensive season in the build-up and high up the pitch. Abidal tended to be slightly more conservative on the left, but Messi could drop into the midfield to create a 3 versus 3, and with Barcelona's technical superiority, 1 versus 1s were not a good situation for the opposition. From here, Barcelona could create wide overloads in a variety of ways, but will focus on a couple. Messi could drop into this region to drag the defense to one side, and they could try and work their way up the pitch. But as discussed, Alves was a generational fullback, capable of dominating the whole flank and would often move higher up the pitch, allowing Pedro to tuck infield. Xavi often ducked into this region to either find Pedro in the half space or Alves down the wing. If Messi had dropped to support, Pedro could make the central run, or Messi could even make a run into the wide regions. The chief objective of these wide plays was to get them into good regions high and wide for low-driven crosses or cutbacks. But from this right-hand side, they unlocked the side switch. Their positioning would, of course, cause the opposition to drift across to compensate. Iniesta would draw the central midfielder, and Abidal would move into this half space to occupy the winger. This meant that when Xavi played the switch, Villa would be 1 versus 1 against his fullback, and these Barcelona forwards were not the players you wanted to see running at your defender. When they were now higher up the pitch, the midfield took over, with 3 maestros, each of them press resistant and capable of playing quick passes into tight regions. They used this tight passing to move the opposition around, and with each pass, the opponent didn't quite get back into position, until there was enough room for them to exploit with a pass. They were also just as comfortable going backward to open up bigger spaces between the lines. However, Xavi and Iniesta would often stay in position in their respective half spaces. This meant that their opposite numbers would be forced to stay just as wide, giving the centre a bit more space. This space would be filled by Messi dropping deeper. If the defensive midfielder picked up Messi, Barca had a 4 versus 3 or 2 advantage, and one of their midfielders could move higher to take advantage of the space higher up the pitch or to find a pocket. The alternative, and often more devastating option, was when the centre-back followed instead, and there would be a gaping hole, and both wingers tended to attack the centre of the pitch when they were high up the pitch. But if centre-back and defensive midfielder maintained their positions, Messi was found here, where he could turn and become the orchestrator, sliding a pass for the runner who could finish, although often Messi himself got on the end of the cutback. Or he could have a shot from range or dribble past a man before finishing. All were equally dangerous, and he finished the season with the second most goals in the league with 31, the most Champions League goals with 12, and the most assists in the league. As we can see, this meant Barcelona's attack could be quite narrow at times, but on the right hand side, Dani Alves alone could make up for this. On the left, when Maxwell played, he could also provide width and crosses to a lesser degree. But when it was Abidal, instead he moved slightly higher to this region, and Iniesta was comfortable drifting wide, to either combine with Villa or take his place when he had gone central. His dribbling took him past fullbacks, allowing him to pick out a man from wide, and he could just as easily find a killer pass from here. Pep also put trust in his forwards in the final third. The first 2/3 of the build-up were highly structured, but in the final third they were free to find the most dangerous situations they could. And that they did, scoring 95 goals, only behind Real Madrid. On the defensive end, when they did lose the ball, it was usually high up the pitch. The centre-backs would have had a high line, and so many players were in close proximity, meaning that they had short distances to pass, and thus allowing quicker passing. But it also allowed the famous 6-second rule. In this way, Barcelona showed perfect synergy and oneness in their play. The way they attacked influenced how they defended, and vice versa, defending when attacking and attacking when defending. When they lost the ball, they could immediately suffocate the opposition, pressuring the man before he has time to look around the pitch and pick out a man. And before he could breathe, the ball was gone and the merry-go-round begun once again. The press wasn't random though, when the opposition had controlled possession. They waited for press triggers, like when the opponent received the ball with his back to play or has taken a bad touch. Most of all, when the opponents went wide, they looked to cut any passes infield as the touchline acted as an extra defender, and in this way they won the ball. But the high line was a disadvantage at times. Pacey forwards could be found with balls over the top, and Valdez would try and cover the distance. However, at times, opponents were often able to get goals in this manner. These tactics allowed them to be devastating all season. They set a then La Liga record of 16 wins in a row. And the Swedish league win would have been the 5-0 against eternal rivals Madrid. The Champions League final against United at Wembley was a crowning glory. They came away 3-1 winners, but the scoreline flattered the English side. It was a display of dominant, dizzying football, from start to finish, and even a managerial great in Sir Alex Ferguson had to admit that this was the greatest side his team had ever faced. That season, Almost half the World 11 was made up of Barcelona players, and at the Ballon d'Or ceremony, Barcelona were officially recognized as having the 3 best players in the world, each coming through La Masia, a fitting way to crown perhaps the greatest team of all time. But what do you think made this side so special? Drop it down in the comments below, and remember to use the link in the description to get 83% off your Surfshark membership. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.